This might be one of the best retro cases I've ever seen. Let's take a look inside. Welcome back to Hardware Asylum. We've moved out here into the lab, or the garage, so to speak, and we're going to finish tearing down this case, this computer. This is a 486. It says micro 386 on here, but the motherboard inside is a 486-33, and I had started tearing this apart just to see what was inside, and got the hard drives out. Which one of them here is a Caviar 2420 or a 420 meg hard drive. Sadly, there wasn't anything of interest on the drives, but I think there's some interesting stuff inside. So let's open it back up. Now, we've had this open for the podcast, for the previous part of this video, and as you can see, it is chocked full of expansion cards, drives, full-on memory. We got 6 expansion cards, which are reflected in the back. And it kind of really speaks to how this PC was used. In the podcast, we talked about retro PCs, and when we were building these boxes way back when, people would ask us, what do I need to buy? And the answer was, well, what do you plan to do? And that whole answer was based off of the min-max. So if they were going to be playing games, then we would get a decent graphics card, make sure that you got a fast hard drive. If you were just doing office apps, then we would make sure that you would have a fast processor, because that would actually directly translate into how long you'd be spending on different apps and stuff like that. So, first off, let's just start at the top. We'll go and pull these out in order. First card. And we fired this machine up before, so we know that it actually works. So the first card is a Compati Card 4. And this is basically an external I/O device where we have floppy connector, floppy connector, floppy connector, and floppy connector. And that allows this particular machine to run these other two floppy drives. Next is the I/O. Now, I/O cards are one of the two that are available in a VL bus configuration, or bezel bus. And that's the extended cards that have extra, well, they're kind of like the PCI of the 486 realm. There it goes. This does not happen to be one of those cards. This is a standard ISA 16 or 16-bit. You can tell by the other set of fingers over here. We have the 8-bit, 16-bit. And on this we have our ID controller and the floppy component. And much like the Compati card, we have support for 2 drives. Now, the most curious card in here is the video card. When I was trying to figure out what this machine was used for. At the time it was manufactured, it had some really high-end components in it. So chances are when it was assembled for a purpose, like gaming, or you know, they just wanted the fastest computer you could buy. And this is a Wdc Video Card. Not sure I've ever seen one of those before either. But we got a couple of these are crystals up at the very top here. And then a feature expansion thing. I've seen a lot of these on, you know, ISA-based video cards. But this is an ISA 16. The motherboard supports VESA, but there's obviously no VESA compatible items. The next card. In the podcast, we assumed that this was a Sound Blaster 16. Come on. But it is not. It is a generic style sound card. Not quite sure which, but it looks cool, and it comes with 4 different styles of IDE, well, not really IDE, but CD-Rom connections. This is your Mitsumi, your Sony, Panasonic, and IDE. What do you know? And then this is your audio out, which connects to this card on the bottom. And this card on the bottom has its own power. We'll back this up a little bit here. Comes with its own power and a power output here. And on here we can see that it's Reveal Computer Products Inc. Let's see if you can focus on that there. And I'm not sure why there's this ribbon connector connecting those two together, but basically this is an old external CD-ROM expansion card. And the audio from it was being routed into the sound card. So this was the primary CD-ROM. Basically CD-ROM audio is here, goes to the sound card here. It's Panasonic in, which is weird. And then that allowed the speakers to replay whatever music was coming through here, or games, or whatever it is. Now on the podcast, the last item that we were talking about was this little tiny card here that said scanner. And this is an ISA 8 as well. And I've looked this up, so I cheated a bit, but this is basically a handheld document scanner. Plug it in here and it goes through this one chip, scans into a signal that you can record onto your PC. I'll lay this down really quick. So inside we have our CPU cooler. This is again a 4633, and the 33 did not require cooling, which leads me to believe that this was a high-end style build. So they spent some extra time and put the cooler on there to make sure it ran smooth. Here's our ISA or VESA bus slots, but we did not have any VESA based expansion cards, so we couldn't take advantage of that. And it looks like we have 2 sets of memory, so chances are it might have come with it had 4 total, so 2 megs and 2 megs. So at some time this computer got upgraded to get more memory. Now on the case, the screws, those were really worn out, so that leads me to believe that this was a living build. So it kept getting upgraded and upgraded over time. And we have a completely full level 2 cache. So in terms of the way that this motherboard was configured, it was configured to be top of the line. So as I mentioned on the podcast, the plan is to restore this machine, use it kind of a test bed. I don't necessarily want to keep this motherboard and this hardware in it, but the case itself I want to clean up, fix some of the issues. There's a screw that's stripped out here, so I'm going to weld that up and then re-tap it. Make sure that the bends are out of the case. This is kind of bent a little bit. We'll bend that back. Straighten it up, clean it up, give it a nice coat of paint, the same color. Maybe on the inside we'll do a matte black or something like that. Kind of just spruce it up and not necessarily make it museum quality, but it is in really good shape and I don't necessarily want to destroy that. So check back for more.